Ladies and gentlemen, this is 78th day of Russian invasion and 9th year of Russian Federation's war against Ukraine. I'm Andriy Shevchenko, and on behalf of Media Center Ukraine at Ukrinform team, I'd like to welcome all journalists who tell the world about our fight for freedom. And our today's guest is Natalia Naumenko, head of the State Migration Service of Ukraine. Ms. Naumenko, please tell us what is State Migration Service doing now? Good morning, everybody. The topic of our today's discussion is operations of the State Migration Service in the wartime and the martial law. There's no doubt that the morning of the 24th of February has split the life of Ukrainians and the whole world into before and after. Since that day, State Migration Service, like the whole country, the whole Ukrainian community, started working in new realities and started working intensely in the wartime martial law conditions. So today we are to share the chronology of some of the most important results of activities of State Migration Service over this time since the beginning of Russian aggression. Of course, we'll only be talking about the information which can't be disclosed in public, but I would probably like to start with the best news. Our team was working on that subject even before the wartime. There was some model of approval of that important resolution by the Cabinet of Ministers. It has been transformed a bit in our current conditions, but this novelty will accelerate quite a bit and make it more convenient for our citizens to get their passport documents executed. And I'm talking about the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, passed on May 7th this year, which has not been published as yet, so it has not entered into legal force, so we haven't started implementing it as yet, but we have been working on it for quite a long time, and we are talking about some experimental pilot project which will enable people to get the ID card and travel passport executed at the same time. And in order to receive such service, citizens will be able to approach the territorial units of the State Migration Service, centers for administrative services, and for passport services. As I already said, our citizens will be able to use the service after the resolution is officially published and after we regulate some technical things about its implementation. But indeed, this is quite a breakthrough because we understand how important it is for our citizens to be able to receive quickly and without any problem with the ID card and the travel passport. It's especially relevant in our current situation. So we are saying that citizens will be able to come to the Migration Service unit not 4 times like before, but just 2 times, to submit the documents for the ID card and travel passport, and then to receive at the same time both documents. So it will be convenient. As I already said, since 24th of February, we have been working in new reality. And everybody has noticed it, and our people have noticed it, and the central headquarters of the Migration Service, it was quite difficult to adjust to those new conditions because all databases were cut off. Ukraine did not provide some administrative services, and of course it affected the comfort of certain activities for our citizens. First of all, we've all seen intensification of migration processes at our borders. Mostly people who were living were mothers with children, older people, and they were living mostly without their documents, or their documents have expired, or they had only copies of their documents. So there were all sorts of situations. And due to our border guards and our colleagues, foreign border guards, decision was made that citizens of Ukraine can cross the border using any document they have. But of course, this situation could not remain forever, because abroad people also have to get their documents to receive certain services, and they have to have some valid documents. So quite quickly, the team at the Migration Service developed a draft resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers, which was passed by the Cabinet of Ministers on the 28th of February, whereby it implemented some very relevant novelties which are still in place now. Namely, it's impossible to put a photo for children up to 18 years old to any passport of their parents, and extension of the travel passport term which expired. This service is still working today, but in Ukraine, and it's also provided by our foreign representative offices, our consular offices. Also, in less than a week, on the 12th of March, this year, most territorial units and entities of the State Migration Service, which were not in the active combat area, had resumed their operations partially and provided some administrative services that we are able to provide. Again, it's about extension of the travel passport term, placing photos in the old paper passport and into a travel passport. And since the whole logistical mechanisms have been destroyed, whereby we were delivering the documents before the 24th of February, we have still been trying to overcome those negative consequences, but we started issuing those documents which we were able to transport, to deliver to our units. Also, from the 14th of February this year, Ukraine printing combined resumed their operation to a full extent, so we started printing ID cards and travel passports in the usual mode like it was done before the wartime. And we also managed to change our logistics of delivery of such documents to safe regions. Since the 15th of March, territorial units and entities of the State Migration Services resumed their operations about issuing documents to citizens of Ukraine, including ID cards, travel passports, temporary and permanent residence permits for foreigners, apatrid certificates to travel abroad, and also we resumed services like extension of the term of stay for foreigners and people without stateless persons, and providing immigration permissions. Also an important part of our operations, because we have to show the global community that those foreigners who stay in Ukraine are not left without country's attention, and there are the same decisions made about them like were made before the wartime. Also we realized that in that time, 3-4 weeks after the beginning of the war, people got a lot of issues, a lot of questions, so we were working intensely about resuming our telephone hotline, and we managed to do it on the 16th of March. So people can use those hotline phone numbers to receive relevant information, up-to-date information about any changes in the execution of documents, about units which can receive them for people to get their documents, and any other type of advice. We publish all that information on our Facebook page. And now I'll provide you with some statistics we got from the 24th of February until the 10th of May. We have extended 78,000 of travel passports, and we placed 73,000 photos of children into travel passports of their parents. Also, we issued 131,000 of travel passports to Ukrainian citizens who submitted their documents before the 24th of February, and we also issued 64,000 passports, ID cards of the citizens of Ukraine. Also, what had the martial law wartime changed for us? We started cooperating in a more productive way with our ministries, including in particular Ministry of Reintegration. They are active in getting our prisoners of war released, and we helped to get documents executed for those persons released from prison as prisoners of war. We tried to do it quickly so that within 3 days after submitting an application, person would get either an ID card or a travel passport, because we understand that it's very important for their life. About the current situation, currently all the information systems of the State Migration Service work in the usual mode. We have resumed them, and there are no failures. We have resumed operations of the official website of the Migration Service, and most electronic services of State Migration Services are provided. You are all welcome to, you can all check whether your documents are valid, whether document is lost, the register is lost, and so on. The Immigration Services page is used to provide relevant up-to-date information on every subject. There are full-scale activities of those units of the Migration Service which are not in the active combat area. We are not talking about our units in Luhansk, Kherson, parts of Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Mykolaiv, and Kharkiv Oblast, although even in those oblasts at the moment, our units try to provide services which can be provided to citizens of Ukraine in those territories. It's also important because, again, you know, we have been trying in every way to deliver documents which were already executed, which were already printed, so that people who are there in the center of those activities would be able to get those documents and to leave those dangerous areas, dangerous territories. And also we have been working actively about resumption of our work connection of administrative services centers to our systems. And 72 of such centers have already been connected to our systems. If you have any questions, I'm ready to answer those. You're welcome. Good morning, I'm Maria Harnchar from Ukrainian Forum. Could you please tell us whether there are any data since the beginning of this full-scale invasion of Russia, how many employees of the State Migration Service died or were injured, and how many buildings of the Migration Service were damaged? About buildings, indeed, luckily, we only had unfortunately, we had 2 people who died, 2 our officers who died, and the whole family died in Mariupol. But luckily, all other employees, we managed to relocate them, we managed to get them out of the combat area. We also moved our equipment from those areas, which would be most desirable for occupational forces. We are talking about our databases because according to our information, as soon as Russian troops would enter a certain town or village, they would immediately enter the office of the Migration Service and they would ask about any clean passports and F1 form to monitor people living in those regions. Luckily, those documents have been taken since long ago from all those threatened territories, and they are stored in a safe place. Now, about the equipment, about the property damaged, we understand that it will continue to be damaged. We cannot do anything about that, but we have been inspecting those damaged properties. We describe it and we submit that information in a centralized way to the Ministry of Internal Affairs so that later, in peaceful time, we'll be able to get compensation from the aggressor in order to restore the property. That's we collect such information, of course. I'm Tatiana Zhukova from Ukrainian Forum. How have conditions changed for legalization of Belarusian citizens? Can they approach you in order to get their permits extended? I'll probably add something also about Russian Federation again. Well, this is quite a relevant question. Indeed, there was some pause about Belarusian and Russian citizens, because even though we understand that, we understand how we elect about the Russian Federation because this country has officially been recognized as aggressor. About Belarusian citizens, there has been no such official recognition of the country as aggressor, but indeed we had to deal with a certain number of persons who were who could be of interest also for our security services, because it was unclear what they are doing here in Ukraine. Still, the policies towards Belarusian citizens have not changed, and very soon, in the near future, we'll resume accepting documents and executing documents for such citizens. About Russian citizens, those people who have already got their temporary or permanent residence permits, they continue staying in Ukraine in a legal way, and they can freely enter and exit Ukraine through checkpoints. At the same time, jointly with law enforcement, currently we are carrying out the full audit of the reasons for those permits to be issued to Russian citizens, and for migration permissions and permissions for citizenship, to identify those citizens who may be carrying out some activities against Ukraine. So that means that the protocol has changed how you work with that type of citizens, right? Well, about Belarusian and Russian citizens, such protocols have not changed. We just paused those activities, but now our experts have already been developing a draft resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, which will regulate those issues about citizens of the Russian Federation and how we will be working further work with them. Because we understand that we have to intensify our activities in this area. How many people we are talking about in this case? Well, one of the largest communities in Ukraine who had temporary and permanent residence permits are about citizens of Belarus and the Russian Federation, so former CS citizens. It's more than 150,000 people, of course, and we have been working on understanding in each case. Not only we should understand it, but our law enforcement should understand each and every case. one more category of citizens which is in difficult situation. Those are citizens of Russian Federation or Belarus who have now been fighting, defending Ukraine against Russian aggressors. Do we apply any simplified receiving of citizenship for such people? This issue was also actively discussed even before the beginning of military action about those volunteers who were defending and continue to defend the territorial integrity of Ukraine, now not only in eastern Ukraine but also all over Ukraine. And there was a decision made by the Verkhovna Rada and the Cabinet of Ministers, a number of initiatives about the simplified citizenship procedure. First of all, it's about submission of declarations by them. We have this norm. Also, at the same time, we understand and we thank those foreign volunteers who are in Ukraine and who want to enter Ukraine in order to defend Ukrainian independence. And there was also a number of options for those people to legalize their stay in Ukraine. For them to stay in Ukraine on a legal basis. First of all, we are talking about people who have entered into a contract with the Ukrainian armed forces. And this rule has been working for quite a while because the military card is a temporary residence permission for such foreign citizens. He or she does not have to apply to the Migration Service for any other documents. The very contract with the Ukrainian armed forces and the military ID card already constitute such a document, such a permit. At the same time, we maintain permanent contact we are in contact with the Ministry of Defense and other agencies who take those volunteers. And if there is information that a certain person wants to receive a temporary residence permit or immigration permission or even Ukrainian citizenship, we contribute it to the maximum extent for it to be done quickly with minimum resources spent by that person, for that person to visit migration service as little as possible and to collect as few documents as possible, and the legislation allows to do that. Are there any reasons to say that Russians have been hunting for your databases for those passport forms, and why, and what can be done with those? Of course, yes, there are such things. We have all seen those attacks against databases and Ukrainian governmental authorities even before the beginning of that active aggression. As far as I understand, that was some preparation for armed conflict, for this war. Fortunately, we have quite a strong IT experts team, and jointly with Ministry of Digital Transformation, no one information attack against our information systems was successful. No one. And we successfully repelled all those. When we had information that there may be an attack, we just cut off our systems. But we understand that in the future such situations will continue, and that's completely logical, because that information which is in the Unified State Demographic Registry is indeed of interest for those security services of the Russian Federation, of the aggressor country. They want to get that information, but we work on an ongoing basis on upgrading that system, modernizing it, and now even foreign experts recognize that our registry is one of the best information systems. Why Russian security services may need this information, how they may need it? It's about personal data of our people. That's all which is there in the database. Everything may be of interest. There is a lot of information there. I cannot disclose it now. Does the State Migration Service monitor the situation with foreign students who were in Ukraine at the time of the beginning of this aggression? Indeed, yes, we monitor it within our competence, and we are in contact with law enforcement. We understand how much the national police has been done and the security service of Ukraine has done jointly with the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine in order to evacuate foreign students from those combat areas where they were located. Most of those students left Fortunately, not all of them. We have some cases when foreign students stay in safe areas, also in Kyiv, and they contact us even to document their to record their marriage with the Ukrainian citizen, and we are very glad to see such cases. We try to help them as much as possible. I don't know how it will go this year about campaign for students to join Ukrainian universities. Maybe it will be difficult. I think that the Ministry of Education and Science has now been working on the new conceptual framework for getting foreign students to Ukraine. We understand how important it is, and we are ready to participate in it, to work on it, to make it comfortable, to make it convenient, so that we don't lose that potential we have. I mean, the research potential and human potential, so that we would involve foreigners in scientific life in Ukraine. Natalia Naumenko, head of the State Migration Service of Ukraine. Thank you for this information. Thank you. We continue working. We bring our victory closer. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to heroes. And our next briefing will be at 12:30.